Okay, we're going to talk about cranial nerve number 4, the trochlear nerve, and answer the questions: what is its function, what is its pathway, and what are some clinical considerations? Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Morton, and I'm the noted anatomist. Cranial nerve number 4 exits the midbrain dorsally. Here's a posterior view of the brainstem, and there's cranial nerve number 4, the trochlear nerve, and it's exiting below the inferior colliculus, and it wraps around the cerebral peduncle like this. Wraps around laterally the cerebral peduncle en route to the orbit where the superior oblique muscle is. Let's look at the base of the brain except in a cadaveric brain, where there's the pons. Rostral to that is the cerebral peduncle, and cranial nerve number 4 wraps laterally around the cerebral peduncle en route to the orbit for the superior oblique. For orientation, watch cranial nerve 1, 2, and cranial nerve 3. Observe the rostral orientation, the rostral caudal orientation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. This is a neat dissection showing a superior lateral view of the brainstem, and there's specifically the superior colliculus and inferior colliculus of the midbrain, where the cerebral peduncle would have been, except it's dissected away. Now observe how the trochlear nerve arises inferior to the inferior colliculus, wraps around the cerebral peduncle en route to the orbit to innervate the superior oblique, like that. Notice trochlear nerve comes from the posterior surface of the midbrain and wraps around the cerebral peduncle going forward. It's the only cranial nerve that arises dorsally from the brainstem. And so the trochlear nerve innervates or provides somatic motor innervation to the superior oblique muscle. All extraocular muscles are derived from somites, and your tongue muscles are derived from somites, hence somatic motor. This is in contrast to branchial motor, which is skeletal muscle derived from a pharyngeal arch or a branchial arch, associated with, basically cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 10. 11's weird. All right, there's the superior oblique muscle. This orientation is a left lateral view of the orbit to just give you an idea of what we're looking at here, okay? The pathway, the trochlear nerve arrives in the midbrain, the caudal portion, at the trochlear nucleus, SM for somatic motor, wraps posteriorly and then around the cerebral peduncle, and then cranial nerve 4 courses to the orbit to innervate the superior oblique. Here's a caudal midbrain. Here's the caudal portion of the midbrain in cross-section. And the trochlear nerve arises from the trochlear nucleus in the caudal part of the midbrain. And then notice how the axon decussates to the contralateral side before exiting below the inferior colliculus and then wraps around the cerebral peduncle en route to the superior oblique muscle. Injury to the trochlear nucleus produces a deficit in the contralateral superior oblique. That's why the sad face. In contrast, injury to the trochlear nerve in a peripheral setting produces a deficit in the ipsilateral superior oblique. Compare and contract the trochlear nucleus to the trochlear nerve injury. All right, now the trochlear nerve continues then from the midbrain through, basically after it exits the brainstem, it goes by the internal carotid artery in the wall of the cavernous sinus. Let's take a coronal section. There's the pituitary gland, and there's the internal carotid artery surrounded by the cavernous sinus, and there's cranial nerve number 4 in the wall of the cavernous sinus. Above it is 3, then V1 and V2 are below, and cranial nerve 6 is right by the artery. The superior orbital fissure is how the trochlear nerve gets into the orbit. There's the superior orbital fissure, along with cranial nerves 3, 4, V1, and 6. And superior oblique is in the orbit. Now the superior oblique muscle, this is a superior view of the orbit on the right side. Superior oblique muscle and the trochlea. So as the superior oblique muscle courses forward, it wraps around this pulley called the trochlea. Hence why the name of the cranial nerve 4 is the trochlear nerve, because the muscle it innervates wraps through the trochlea. And then the superior oblique attaches to the superior portion of the globe in its posterior lateral quadrant. The actions of the superior oblique is intorsion, depression, and abduction. Basically, the superior oblique moves the eye down and out when starting from a neutral position, like this. Notice you can see the cornea going down and out when the superior oblique contracts. the action is because of that going through the trochlea. Down and out like that. Okay. Now, how do you clinically test cranial nerve 4? Well, you have the patient adduct their eye first and then depress. Like this. Adduct first and then depress. Whenever you look down, both the superior oblique and the inferior rectus muscles assist in that movement. Question: how can you test the superior oblique and not the inferior rectus? The answer is the clinical H pattern, which positions the eye in an abducted or adducted position first, which then isolates specific muscles. For example, if you adduct the eye first and then depress, that's how you test the superior oblique and its associated or corresponding cranial nerve. Adduct first from the medial rectus and then look down, depress through the superior oblique. See, the superior oblique is the only muscle that's capable of depressing the eye after it's fully aDDucted. Injury of cranial nerve 4 then results in the inability to look down when the eye is adducted. Like this. You adduct the eye and then you're unable to look down because the superior oblique is the only muscle capable of depressing the eye after it's fully adducted. So there's one. Inability to look down when the eye is adducted. But injury to the cranial nerve 4 also results in the patient tilting the head away from the side of the lesion to compensate for vertical diplopia, double vision, by correcting the extortion of the affected eye and better align the visual axes. Whew, that's a mouthful. I gotta warn you, the juice to squeeze ratio of this next concept is really low. Take home point, injury to cranial nerve 4 results in the patient tilting the head away from the side of the lesion. That's what you need to know. Now I'm going to explain it. Okay. Here we have a patient looking forward. Okay. Notice that to get conjugate gaze, when the head is tilted, you have torsion of the eyes. Okay. Torsion is the normal response to tilting the head sideways. The eyes automatically rotate in an equal and opposite direction. Therefore, orientation of the environment that you're seeing remains unchanged. Vertical things remain vertical. This conjugate gaze is very important. You know conjugate gaze because if you go cross-eyed, your eyes are not parallel and you get double vision. But it happens in the Z-axis of the eye as well with torsion. So in a cranial nerve 4 lesion, and for the example, let's use the right side, the right eye extorts and slightly elevates like that because of the unopposed action of the ipsilateral inferior oblique muscle. That results in double vision, diplopia, because you don't have conjugate gaze. What maneuver could the patient use to restore conjugate gaze? To compensate, the patient tilts the head to the opposite side of the lesion. This induces compensatory intorsion of the normal left eye, helping align the visual fields and reducing double vision. Basically, in a cranial nerve 4 lesion, the head tilts away from the side of the lesion. I warned you, the juice to squeeze ratio for this concept is low. And that, my friends, is the trochlear nerve in a nutshell.